Iowa State was a major disappointment in 2021. The Cyclones started as a top 10 team, but finished the year at 7-6. They now enter a minor rebuild in 2022, which begs the question, can Iowa State keep their 5-year bowl streak alive? So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, ready to break down, analyze, and predict Iowa State's schedule and record for this upcoming college football season. A season that's going to be pretty big for the Cyclones, guys. Has a lot of questions going into this season. You take a look at the numbers. Iowa State only returns 37% of the production from last year. That is 128th in the nation. 128 out of 131. They lose a lot of talent. They lose Brock Purdy, their quarterback. They lose Breece Hall, their star running back. They're dealing with life without both of them for the first time since 2018. Now Hunter Dekkers steps in at quarterback. He's got a great size, great build, some say an even better arm than Brock Purdy, but can he deliver and can he be accurate? Jarrell Brock comes in at running back to replace Breece Hall, and they do have a very talented wide receiver, though, in Xavier Hutchinson. He's going to be the key playmaker and probably the go-to target for Hunter Dekkers for an offense that last year was just 49th in the country. Defensively, Iowa State was 9th nationally last year, so very, very solid, and that's going to be their strength again this year. 9th nationally on defense. They return their all-time sack leader in Will McDonald on the defensive line. Orion Vance returns at linebacker. The secondary has a couple key playmakers where it's not going to be totally destroyed. The Cyclones certainly have the talent to remain a contender in the Big 12. They might not be Big 12 title contenders this year, but they're still a team that can and should go bowling in 2022. But can they navigate the schedule? Take a look, guys. We do think they open up with a win over Southeast Missouri. That shouldn't be an issue there. 1-0. They then take on Iowa at Kinnick Stadium. And last year, guys, the Cyclones just laid an egg. Top 10 showdown in Ames. Everybody thought that Iowa State could finally get over the hump and take down the Hawkeyes, and they didn't. They fell 27-17, and that final score actually makes it look closer than the game really was. So the Cyclones have now lost 6 straight games to Iowa. 6 straight games to Iowa. And I don't think they're going to break that streak this year. The game is now at Kinnick Stadium. This is an Iowa team that won the Big Ten West last year, will still have one of the better defenses in the country, and should improve slightly offensively. Again, Kinnick being such a difficult place to play. On top of all of that, I just don't see the Cyclones, especially with all the new pieces, finding a way to win this game. So they drop to 1-1. We do think they're 2-1 with a win over Ohio. Should be able to take down the Bobcats at home, and then they get into Big 12 conference play. The first game in Big 12 play is Baylor. They lost to Baylor 31-29 in Waco last year. And I think that was the game that kind of started to end Iowa State's season. That was their second loss of the year. Kind of demoralized that team. And it was also the game where people started to realize, hold on, Baylor might be legit. And obviously they were, winning the Big 12 and winning 12 games last year. Now the game, yes, is in Ames, which obviously is a plus for Iowa State. But Baylor, guys, they're simply too good. The reigning Big 12 champions, they returned their star quarterback in Blake Shapen, who led them to that Big 12 title over Oklahoma State. The defense, especially the defensive line, is going to be one of the best in the entire country. And I just don't think Iowa State's offense, which I expect to go through some growing pains this year with the new quarterback and the new running back and a few key pieces up front, I expect them to struggle a little bit. And I think they're going to struggle against this Baylor defense significantly. So I think Baylor comes on the road and does take down the Cyclones, but then Iowa State bounces right back and beats Kansas, a team they beat 59-7 last year. Shouldn't have much issue with them again. So win, loss, win over Kansas. They've been alternating. We think they're actually going to string together a second consecutive victory with a win over Kansas State. Iowa State has done recently very well over Kansas State. They beat the Wildcats 33-20 last year. Like I said, they've owned them for quite a while now. And if you look at the numbers, guys, I do think that Iowa State actually owns the defensive edge over the Wildcats. A Wildcats team that's going to be good defensively. I just don't think they're going to be as good as Iowa State. I do think that offensively, Kansas State probably owns the slight edge. Solid quarterback in Adrian Martinez transferring in from Nebraska. They've got Deuce Vaughn, one of the best running backs in the Big 12 this year. But typically, even with the talent they've had on offense, they've always just been mediocre, ranking nationally anywhere between the 40s to 50s, somewhere in there. So nothing great. And I think with the game being at home for Iowa State, I think they're able to take down the Wildcats. That's 2 straight victories. They are 4-2. And then the schedule gets tough. schedule gets really tough. I mean, just look at what's ahead. At Texas, Oklahoma, West Virginia, and at Oklahoma State. All of those extremely, extremely difficult games. And all of those are games we're going to predict as a loss for Iowa State. I know a lot of people will hate that, but we're going to break it down very quickly. The road game at Texas. Iowa State beat Texas 30-7 last year. Do I see a 23-point swing? Typically, I don't. But when you return the third least amount of production in the entire country like Iowa State does, yeah, I think you're going to fall to a Texas team that should be improving and a Texas team that gets to host this game in Austin. Texas should be loaded back on offense, should be a lot better on that side of the ball. Defense should be getting there. And again, with the offensive growing pains I believe Iowa State will be going through, I just don't think they have enough to take down Texas. They lose to the Longhorns. They get their bye week. They then take on Oklahoma. And if you watched our Oklahoma video, we said, hey, this is a Thursday night game at night in Ames. If this was a game last year with the talent that Iowa State had, yes, they disappointed, only going 7-5 in the regular season. But if this was last year, we probably would have been picking Iowa State. We probably would have been picking the Cyclones here. Okay, it's a major, major trap game for Oklahoma. And it still is to an extent. But the Sooners should improve drastically defensively under Brent Venables. Dylan Gabriel is going to do great and light up the Big 12 at quarterback, just like he did at UCF, throwing for over 8,000 yards and 70 touchdowns. So I think he's going to do just fine there. Yes, Iowa State comes off a week of rest. So does Oklahoma. Yes, the games have been historically close. The last 7 decided by 10 or less. Wouldn't be surprised to see that be the same case here. But Oklahoma will get the win, just like they did last year, beating Iowa State 28-21 in Norman. So a close game, trap game for Oklahoma, but they still get the win here. Iowa State drops their second straight. The West Virginia game is, I'm sure, the game that I'm going to get the most hate for from Iowa State fans. So for Cyclone Steve and for Cyclone Mitch and guys like that, my sincerest apologies. But here's our logic here, right? First off, we got a potential Oklahoma hangover. And it goes both ways. Iowa State gets blown out by Oklahoma, they're a little hungover. They lose a heartbreaker to Oklahoma, they're a little hungover. You look at West Virginia. West Virginia beat Iowa State last year 38-31. I don't necessarily think that West Virginia was better than Iowa State, but the Cyclones still lost that game in Morgantown because they could not stop the Mountaineers. Could not stop their offense. They fell 38-31. And now West Virginia is going to have an even better offense because they have a great quarterback, a former 5-star quarterback in JT Daniels leading the offense. The offense should take a big step forward. The defense is typically middle of the pack Big 12, middle of the pack nationally, just like they were last year. And again, if Iowa State's offense can't continuously improve each week, they can't keep taking that next step forward, which again, we don't necessarily know what to expect. They might struggle against a middle-tier defense like West Virginia. And I think West Virginia's offense does have the talent to exploit this Iowa State defense that's good, but won't be as good as they were last year. And last year's defense couldn't stop them for anything. So the game, yes, is in Ames. It's kind of one of those toss-up games for me, but I'm going to give the edge to the Mountaineers here. Again, a team that's middle of the pack Big 12 this year. JT Daniels isn't going to make him a contender or anything, but he will be able to come on the road and get him a win. So Iowa State drops that game and then drops the game to Oklahoma State. Yes, they beat Oklahoma State last year, 24-21 in Ames. That was Oklahoma State's only regular season loss last year. Cowboys will be out for revenge. It's now in Stillwater. The defense is still solid. Their offense does have the edge over Iowa State, the most experienced quarterback in the Big 12 in Spencer Sanders versus, for some, arguably the most least experienced quarterback in the Big 12 in Hunter Deckers. Give the edge to Oklahoma State. So all of that being said, that's 4 straight losses, which means Iowa State has to win their last 2 games to go bowling. Got to win the last 2 to get to a bowl game. Keep that streak alive, right? Well, I will say it stays alive barely. Right now, they beat Texas Tech, right? They lost to Texas Tech last year 41-38 on what was a 62-yard field goal as time expired. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Another one of those games where Iowa State's defense did not show up. They should have beaten Texas Tech. They should have beaten West Virginia, but the defense couldn't stop them. But Matt Campbell and the Cyclones are going to understand the urgency here. Say, hey, if we want to go bowling, got to win the last 2. They're going to beat Texas Tech. The defense wakes up, they show up, slow down Texas Tech and their offense, which should be good. But the offense for Iowa State, while it might not be great, should be able to exploit a Texas Tech defense, which we know isn't going to be great. So they beat Texas Tech, which means it's a winner-take-all at TCU. You win, you go bowling. You lose, you stay home for the holidays. What's Iowa State going to do? They're going to go bowling. They are going to go bowling, and here's why. Yes, the game is at TCU. Factor in also the Texas Tech thing, senior night for Iowa State and Ames. Another reason why they're going to win that game. But you look at the TCU game. Iowa State won that game 48-14 last year. TCU is now dealing with a new coach, an offense that has a lot of new pieces. Don't even know who their quarterback is going to be. Max Duggan, Chandler Morris, who knows, right? It's going to be solid, but not, anything spectacular. The defense, also horrible. 48-14 last year. Do I see a 34-point swing despite all the changes for Iowa State? No, I do not. I especially don't see it when we know what's at stake for the Cyclones here. Iowa State knows what they have to do to win this game. Know that if they lose, they do not get to go bowling. They will find a way to win this game, especially if it does play out like this, and this will be their 6th win. They will do everything they can to get it, and they are going to get it. So we do have Iowa State finishing, guys, 6-6. They'll be heading to their 6th straight bowl game. And again, for most Cyclones fans, this is a disappointment. You've been so close. You've been so good these last few years. Last year was a disappointment. This year, you take actually a step back. But when you consider all the losses from last year that you lose Purdy, you lose Hall, you lose so much defensively, just getting to a bowl game has to be the goal for this year. And Matt Campbell, once again, will deliver. 6 straight bowl games, guys. Someone had told you that 10 years ago. I don't think anybody would have believed you. 6 straight bowl games for the Cyclones. Maybe 7-5 if they can get there, but we got them at 6-6. But Matt Campbell and his squad, once again, will be a tough out for any team within the Big 12. So once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below, including those expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Make sure to sign up for those today and win big this season by joining our GE Nation. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.